Всего привет! Как дела? Хорошо? Давайте попробуем селфи. On 3 we say, what can we say? Undefined is not a function. Заткнись, заткнись, заткнись. 3, 2, 1. Undefined is not a function! All right, so that should suffice. Right, I should have picked a smaller thing to say, shouldn't I? Anyway, so thanks again for having me. Thanks, Listoshkin and Irina for introducing me. I'm Martin, Splitt, and I'm from, it's funny because I thought it's the other way around. I'm like, oh, they have my name printed on my thing so I don't forget my name. Because I changed last names last year when I got married. I'm Martin from Zurich, which is in Switzerland, if you don't know. People ask me about Switzerland. Hey, how is it in Switzerland? How's life? And I'm like, well, our flag is a big plus. And I work as the head of engineering in a company called Archeologic. Shameless plug, we basically allow you to upload your floor plan, and then you get a 3D model that works on the web, and then you can furnish it and move furniture around and stuff. It's really cool. And today I'm here to talk about Polymer and progressive web apps. And I think we should basically start with setting the tone, then having a look at what Polymer is, and then we finally get into progressive web apps. So let's start with setting up the tone. I like to go back a little bit in time. And obviously, the YouTube video does not load. That's amazing. I love it. It's ironic because it is about things being slow and not loading, so mwah. Thank you very much. Can everyone please just get off the Wi-Fi for like 10 minutes? That'd be terrific. The good thing is this is one of the conferences that's really well prepared, and they have SIM cards for the speakers, so I have 3G coverage. And theoretically, if my life is not a terrible string of things going wrong, this is a Mac, so this is probably taking a while. This is totally planned, you know. This is part of the presentation, really. This is part of the show. Enjoy it. Just deal with it. So, no, yes, awesome. So, here we go. This is basically what my first impressions of the internet... This is what my impressions of the internet are right now anyways. It's really ironic, but it's hilarious. I love it. I preload. And you had to do the mouth movements as well. That's like, this is footage of me sitting in front of my computer going. This is how you connect it, right? And now you're offline, yeah. Now you're online. So this is the sound of the internet to me, right? I was like, this is how the internet works when we're not looking. And the problem with that was that it was, you know, it wasn't very fun. It was quite slow. And the fun thing is we learned that you have to go, it's like, oh, I haven't slept tonight. And people are like, why haven't you slept tonight? Oh, you know, I was up in the internet, because that's when the internet is fast, during the night. That happened, that was a thing. But it's 17 years ago, this is 2017, we have like internet everywhere and it's fast and amazing, as we have seen with loading that YouTube video of 17 seconds, right? So this is kind of the internet really, isn't it? You have to stare at loading spinners for quite a while. And it's so common that a German telephone company and an internet company made this wonderful ad. The text is in German, but I'll quickly translate. I love this ad. It's brilliant. Here we go. Dear Progress Bar, we had a good time. We had a lot of time together, hadn't we? So much time together. And you gave me great moments, right? We have amazing moments together. Every time I saw you, I could go to the toilet, or I could finish my comic books, or I could make coffee, or I could clean my kitchen. It was really, really nice being with you. However, I have moved on, so bye-bye, loading bar. Right? By the way, that's like And this is years old. So now, obviously, everyone goes, you know, it's 2017, the internet is fast. Until it isn't, which is always, basically. So whenever you develop something, especially for the web, remember, you might have a fast internet connection in the office or where you are right now, but you might be in this conference, or you might be on a train, or you might be in entire freaking Germany, and then you have really bad internet connection. I'm saying that because in Germany it's like, we have amazing internet. I have 50 megabits, and I'm like, oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. All right, I'll write a node over my 1 gigabit synchronous connection. And they're like, oh, you pay a fortune for that. I'm like, not really, because Switzerland. Not only is our flag a big plus, our internet is fast. But people do not have fast internet. The internet, the web, is global. You have people from India, from various locations in Africa, Asia. If you have, who here has been in China? Oh, okay, so you have missed out on the best thing ever happening. So China has this amazing internet connection behind this wonderful, what they call the Great Firewall of China. And you have amazing bandwidths of 1 kilobyte a second when it's fast. And also they block Google services, so when I wanted to read my Google email, I SSH'd into my server in Germany and then used a text mode browser to see my Google email. And by the way, Gmail works even with second factor authentication over text. So that brings me to another thing. We have fast internet. Okay, no, we don't have fast internet. Okay, our internet is slow. You have to test for slow internet connections while you develop, because if you don't, then you're basically going to ship something that people can't use. But also, what we should not forget is, even if you test on devices, which you should not test on your latest phone, because probably, as a developer in development offices, oftentimes have like the latest, greatest phones around as their device lab, but people don't, okay? So the difference is approximately 10 times slower than your computer is a good measure for figuring out how much slower the CPU is. And the architecture is different, and the memory bandwidth is very, very different as well. What does that mean? That means that you can actually make things faster by reducing the amount of stuff. So if you just compare the same amount of, like you have a JavaScript and it's unminified, and you run that on your computer, and you run it on your phone, you'll see that it's like 10 times slower. But if you minify it, you see on your computer, it's the same amount of time that it takes to parse it, assuming that the network is not in question, right? So you have a very fast network connection now. But the parsing basically between minified and non-minified on your computer is basically the same. But on mobile, it is probably twice as fast. That's something that you notice. So do test on slow devices. Get an old Android phone. Get a very old iPhone, let's say 4 or 4S. To test with things, not the highest, best phones that you have. Also, a lot of people think that it's sufficient to, who here tests multiple browsers before they ship? Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, good. Right. Moving swiftly on. I'll remember that. Moving swiftly on. So there's not just the 4 major browsers. There's not just Firefox, Chrome, Mozilla, Safari, and Internet Explorer or Edge. There's a billion of browsers. There's Opera Mini, there is UC browser, there's Dolphin, there is Yandex browser, there's a ton of browsers. You can never freaking Samsung browser. You can never freaking test for all these. So instead of trying to test for all the things, try to basically come with a mindset that you have a thing that is barely able to execute or parse HTML and CSS, and then enhance based on that, okay? So progressive enhancement is not dead. We keep forgetting that every now and then, but it's not dead. It's still there, and it's still important. Right, with that, that's like the basis, that's the foundation. We have that out of the way. Let's talk about Polymer. Basically, when you work with Polymer, you more or less do 3 things. You think of your application as a bunch of components, which is not very new anymore because every freaking framework does that. Polymer does that. for a couple of years as well, but they are using web components for that. So you do not have to install much for that. You basically just have to have a browser that supports them and a polyfill for the browsers that don't. And then you can build applications like this. And I like that because a couple of years ago, most people would probably have done something similar before, like in the days before Angular and stuff. They would have done basically div class tabs, div class tab, div class Google Map, div, and so on and so forth, which basically means div, 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 div. And that's a div soup, and no one has a freaking idea what's going on anymore. And I like this a lot better. It basically, they expose APIs using attributes. They expose APIs using children, like what kind of children do they have? How do we hook them up? How do we display them? And you can use JavaScript and events, and basically you use the DOM to do things. This is basically not Polymer. This is web components. So it's framework independent. Once you have your components, you can connect them. Makes sense, right? So for instance, I can say, on my map element, which is my Google Maps thing, I can set the center point to some latitude and longitude. By the way, that's the coordinates of a really cool bar here in Kiev. Google Maps, oh shit, the Wi-Fi is not working. I can also just then ask for, or wait for events and then handle these events just like if it would have been a regular browser thing. It basically behaves like a regular HTML element, and I don't have to learn new stuff for it, and I don't have to worry that the library is going to change dramatically and everything has to be rewritten, because it's the DOM, and the DOM is there to stay, okay? Sweet. And also, this is still web components. This is still not Polymer. The Polymer things come in later. Here, for instance, I'm using data binding. So I'm having a property called location, and I have a location picker. So basically, maybe it's a drop-down list, maybe it's a map, whatever. And then it has the location name in a div, and then we have a Google map whose center is set to that location. Sweet. So that's how basically you build. You think about how data flows through. You can also use things like Flux architectures or Redux with this, because where this data comes from doesn't really matter, right? It can come from a Redux store, for instance. And you can use the events to trigger actions and so on and so forth. So that's quite nice. But Polymer is not a framework. And this is JavaScript framework days. So what am I doing here? And also developers probably go like, I learned frameworks all my life. I don't have a framework anymore. Where am I? Don't worry, it's not too bad. Polymer is basically a library that does, or not a library, it's a thing. It's a library, repository, whatever you want to call it, project that does a few things. First things first, it produces web components, but web components require you to write a lot of code to get it done because it's a very low-level standard, or actually it's 4 standards. It's the shadow DOM, it's a template element, it's custom elements, and it's the HTML imports. These 4 standards are very low-level because they are exposed by the browser, and that makes sense. Who here remembers app cache? Everyone's like, what? Who am I? What? Oh, yeah, no. What? What was the question? No, it's okay. Never mind then. So basically, app cache was one of the higher-level APIs the browser tried to give us, and it was crap. And tough luck. So we are more interested in lower-level APIs, but that means that we have to write a lot of code. Polymer takes that away by basically writing the code for us based on very few configuration things. It also has a bunch of components that are not really application logic, but basically just help make things look in a certain way. Like you have a list component that basically takes an array and then renders the template that you have inside it multiple times for each of these items and all that kind of stuff. Ifs, all that kind of thing. Lives in helper components, but they also have a large library of UI components. So for instance, if someone says, oh, I want this drawer kind of thing, you know, like the little hamburger button, and then a menu comes in, and every UX person will tell you that it's crap, but everyone wants it. So you can do that using components that have been built by Polymer, and they follow the material design guidelines, but you can override that. So there's a lot of components that actually work out of the box. The Google Maps component is one of them, for instance. So you don't have to write everything yourself. You can use well-tested, well-documented things already. And then there's a bunch of tools. So it has a CLI interface that allows you to start your application by creating a boilerplate and all that kind of stuff. But more interesting is that it has tooling for documentation. So you can really easily document your component with executable demos and like code snippets and explanations and API documentation. There's tools for deployment, so like build tools that minify and uglify and merge the components and stuff. So that's really cool. And also tests. Polymer comes with a thing they call the web component tester. It has a bunch of components that help you write HTML and JavaScript to test your components. And that's really nice because it gives you a standardized set of tools that you can use, but you don't have to. So for instance, you can use the web components tester and the documentation utility and write vanilla JavaScript web components. That's fine. That's okay. There's no problem with it. Or you can say, you know what, I don't need the testing thing because I do testing with whatever I'm using. And I only want the UI components, and I don't even want to use Polymer. That's fine. You can use the UI components just by themselves. It's not a take one or die solution. It's basically you pick what you want. Or you can just basically follow their principles and guidelines, and then it feels like a framework. I wrote a book on Polymer last year, and my publisher says, that's very nice, Martin, but can we call it, it's a German book, unfortunately, can we call it Polymer, the web components framework? And I said, no, because it's not a framework. And they're like, okay, but for marketing reasons, can we call it that? And I'm like, no. And I'm like, cool, so we're going to do that. They're nice people, but you know, it's what sells, I guess. I'm really happy that they didn't ask for like, hey, can you like take off your shirt and we make a picture? Because then no one would buy it anymore. Sex does sell, but you know, you have to be sexy for that, I guess. Anyway, if you want to see code and how that looks like, have a look at this wonderful sample application, for instance, because I think this is far too early for me to actually, you know, digest code. And I think, really, you could just go online and check out the code yourself. What I find more interesting is, let's have a look at how progressive web apps work and what makes them tick under the hood. And I think also, like, seriously, Polymer code is not too complicated. I think that's okay, right? Anyway, so moving swiftly on to progressive web apps. So who here has not heard the term before? Who here has heard the term before? Okay, at least a few people are still not checking their emails on the phone. Maybe it's the problem with the live file. Like, everyone's like, oh, I'm having internet. Oh, it's not loading. And then you're bound to stare at your phone. I don't know. Maybe I'm just shit, then you can go to the speaker's corner, you know, just saying. Anyway, so progressive web apps basically are the attempt to catch up and make it better what native did in the last couple of years by allowing us to install our web application. So basically what the browser does is, if you have the right things in your code, and the user is constantly checking your website, like if they come back every half an hour for 2 days, or if, I think it's like 4 times in 2 days, if they visit your page and your page is ready to become a progressive web app, the browser itself will say, hey, would you be interested in installing this? And then the user can go, yeah, or no. And if they go no, then tough luck for them. They still have the website, but you can also install it. And installing means that it becomes a home screen icon, and it shows up in the launcher like a regular application would do, and you do not see the browser URL bar anymore. So basically, it looks like an app. The problem with that is that basically the environment of the application looks like an app. The container of the application looks like an app. But if your app does not look like an app, that's crap. Oh, that rhymed. Which means you should make it available offline. I find this debatable because, like, try to use Uber when you're offline. Good luck with that. You don't want to use Uber because they're a shit company to begin with, but that's a different story for a different time. You know, we have an after party. There's going to be beers. Hit me up. So yeah, so you basically should think about making it available offline, and we have the technologies for that. So you should display some content while the user is not online, because that's what native apps at least try to do, so you should do too. And you can do it like Uber or other applications where you say, well, you're not online, so no data. Or you could actually have a nicer experience. So what I would say is, do not just do available offline, think offline first. Which means that you always have content and you allow the user to have, like, to engage with your application while they are offline, instead of saying, you know what, if you do not have data, I'm not going to show you anything. You can cache information. You can cache images. You can cache texts. So if you're a news app, or if your website is a news website, allow people to at least read the news that they have already seen. Like, I want to get back to that article. Do not just so like, oh, you're offline, so you're not getting the data that I already have here. Screw you, okay? So always think of offline first, which means once you have once you have a connection, get all the data that the user might need or want, and allow the user to work with this data, even if they are offline. Also means that you can do interesting things like push notifications and background sync for engagement, which means what you can do is, if you're a chat app, for instance, offline first means that you have all the messages that have been sent in the past already there, and the avatars are cached and all that kind of stuff. So I open the app while I'm offline, I see the messages, the conversations that I have, I tap on them, I see all the messages that I had until the point where I lost connection, and then I can type a message in and hit send. And instead of showing a spinner, and thinking of that wonderful advertisement commercial that the German telecom did, instead of showing a spinner and blocking the user because the transaction is finished, I have entered my message. I am offline. I know that it's not going to be sent, but I'm done. But I'm not done because there's a thing that says, wait for me, okay? Wait, I'm doing this. So instead what you can do is you can add it to the conversation and say sending. And then you say to your service worker, which is responsible for background syncing, hey, I have this message that I want to put through the server when you are ready. And then the service worker will go, thank you very much. Oh, we are online, there we go, okay? So that works, and that's really cool, because it allows us to unblock the user. And I, as a user, do not like to look at a spinning thing. I want to actually use my application. Also, push notifications mean that I can close the browser, I can close the app, I can shut down my phone, I can start it again, and then once I have connectivity again, the server could push me a message like, hey, there's new messages in the chat, or your chat message was not sent properly, or something like that. So we have these possibilities in progressive web apps. Technology-wise, we have the service worker that is responsible for offline and cache access, and also does push and background notifications, background sync and push notifications. And then we have the web app manifest. So these are the two of the three things that you have to make the browser go, ooh, this is a progressive web app. You have to have a manifest file that specifies that it's installable to begin with, and then it specifies the theme color, so that's the color of the general, like if it's not a progressive web app, it's going to show the address bar in that color. And also like the icons, that's what goes on the home screen, that's what's shown when the app starts, that's what's shown in the launcher of the applications. And then you have storage APIs where you can put your data as you want to do offline first, right? And then also the one more thing is you have to make it available on SSL. That is because the service worker can intercept data, like data connections. And if that happens over HTTP, that means that everyone could theoretically change the service worker you're downloading, and that's something that you don't want to, because then if you download, let's say you're on a free Wi-Fi using HTTP, so non-encrypted, and you download a website that has a service worker. But now the hotspot that you're using is actually my computer, and I intercept all communication, and because service workers are often called fwdays, I change it so that whenever the website you are going to tries to download an image, I download an image of a cat. While that's very cute at first, when you're trying to find out what kind of image your friends posted on that website, then that's a bit annoying, isn't it? So you want to have SSL on that, because if that would be encrypted, the download of SWJS would have been encrypted. I could not have done this, unless you would have clicked OK on the certificate warning, but you don't do that, right? Good. At least some positive responses. Quickly going through service workers, there's an amazing talk from last year's I.O. from Jake Archibald, and Jake Archibald kind of is the service worker person. There's this legend that if you say Jake Archibald 3 times in a row, then he appears and talks to you about service worker. Or other way around, you say service worker 3 times in a row, and then Jake Archibald appears and talks about himself. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, check that out. That's really good. But here's a very quick rundown of what a service worker is. So classical website, you have the browser where your web app is running, and you get data from the interwebs. Cool. But if the interwebs goes away, you get a cute little dinosaur if you're on Chrome. And I actually kind of like to be offline because I wanted to play that game every now and then. But I found out, yeah, you can also go to Chrome : / and then dinosaur, and then you actually can also play the game without being offline. So now I'm actually only annoyed when I'm offline. I'm like, I have played that game so often, let's just bugger off. But with a service worker, we have the possibility. So this is a JavaScript file. And in our web app, we say, please install this JavaScript file as a service worker. And what happens is that whenever we are trying to get data from the network, and that is by including an image an image, a video, whatever, something in our HTML or the HTML itself, it goes through this JavaScript file. It sends an event to the service worker called a fetch event. And then the service worker has to figure out, like, if it doesn't do anything, then it just goes through to this. It's an event. It bubbles up to the browser fetches the data, everything is normal, nothing has changed. So you can theoretically have an empty JavaScript file, it doesn't do anything. And it doesn't make you offline capable, because if this is an empty file, you still get this when you're offline, because it doesn't do anything yet. But you can also say, so here's the event, here's the request that we are making, and then you can say, wait a minute, this is a request to cat.jpg. Let's check the cache first. Oh, I have it cached. There you go. Done. That's what app cache kind of did. You can also say, oh, there's a request for cat.jpg. Do I have it in the cache? Yes, I do have it in the cache. Here it is. And by the way, the network, do you have a new version of that? And the cool thing is the service worker just waits like that and stares at the loading bar. But the user has the image, and he's like, yay, a cat. So that's pretty cool. And you can do all sorts of things. So you can also change out, like you can say theoretically, when a cat JPEG comes in, you can deliver something completely different. You can show a robot image or something and piss the user off. That works as well. The point being, if this network connection goes down, if the service worker goes, hey, network, oh, never mind. That's not a problem, because we are still having the possibility to see that a request comes in, and we can handle this, even if we are offline. So that means that if we are offline, our application may still be available if the service worker goes, OK, I'm downloading index.html. Oh, but I have it in the cache. There you go. So that's better. That's actually fucking amazing, isn't it? And as I said, offline first, store the stuff somewhere, OK? So always make sure that your application works. One way of doing this is what's called the app shell architecture. You basically have like your index.html, the CSS and JavaScript that you need to run the application. You cache that first, and then all the other data is dynamic. And if you don't have the dynamic data, then your JavaScript shows something like, oh, no data available. But that's not offline first. That's just like, you know, nasty and annoying. So no matter what, go for local first. So that's the scenario where I said, it comes into the service worker, you fetch it from the cache if you have it, and if you don't have it, you go to the network straight. That's obvious. But if you have it in the cache, you give it from the cache, and then you fetch it from the network, because that's resilient, okay? That treats the network as an enhancement. Also, there's this wonderful property called navigator.online. Do not use that. Do not use that. Let's have a look at three situations that you will find yourself in. There's the online situation first, there's the offline situation second, and then there's my favorite, Li-Fi. Jake Archibald came up with that term, and basically it is when your computer thinks it is connected, but it is not connected. So for instance, if you're on an airport and haven't done the, yes, my name is Mr. Funky Face, yes, I accept the terms, go ahead, then you are online, but you're not, right? So if you try to visit any website, you get to that freaking page from the airport, and you have to fill in your details first. So that's Li-Fi. Or also, if you're on a train and it goes like full signal, no signal, full signal, no signal, also known as Germany, then you have the similar situation where the computer goes, right? Or maybe the network is just really bad, also known as Germany, and you are actually online, but it takes ages for the data to go down. That is a possibility. So what does Navigator Online do? When you're online and you have connectivity, then it goes, yes, true, you're online, cool. And if I don't have any connectivity, it goes, no, no connectivity. And OK, cool. So in that case, I can do something about it. But in Li-Fi case, it goes, yeah, go ahead, you're online. But you're not. So it doesn't say that you're online. It only says that you're not. Well, if it's false, that says that you're not online. right? And English language is a fun language. Anyway, in our apps, that would look like this. When we're online, everything is good, our data loads, hurrah, everyone's happy. And if we're offline, we're like, no data, sorry, you can't really do much with the application. But you know, come back later. But the problem really is this. Because what happens is, in this case, I'm like, oh, all right, moving on. And here I'm like, and that's not very nice, is it? Yeah. And the problem really is how the users react to this, right? So the user emotion to an online web app that works and everything is fine is okay, great. If it's offline, you're like, all right, bye, I'll go to the pub then. But this is shit. So you want to avoid that. And that's why you want to do offline first. Always do offline first. Because even an experience that says, I can't really do much for you right now, so how about having a beer, is better than having an experience that says, oh, and then staying there for 20 minutes. That's not cool. Because you get excited, and you're like, yeah, all right, okay, bastard. And then just bugger off. That's not really nice. So that's why you want to do offline first. I said something about the web app manifest. Basically, that's very boring because it's just a JSON. You say the name of your application, you say which kind of URL you want to start with, which kind of path you start with, including into your application. So the thing is, you could theoretically, it's a bad idea, but you could say when I'm on the index HTML or when I'm on order HTML or whatever, and I click install this progressive web app, you can install a different thing. You can theoretically have an app.html that does something different because it's an installed application, so that's possible. Display standalone, that means that, okay, take the screen as a native app would do, be happy with it. There's also UI or browser or something like that, so you can change the standalone to include the browser window and the browser bar if you want that, so you have the choice. And then you have to specify icons. It's enough if you have one larger icon, the browser is going to scale it down automatically. And this is how you tell the browser that my web app is available as a progressive web app. You link to your manifest JSON file. If that is the case, and you're on SSL, which you can totally be. GitHub Pages has it, Heroku has it for free, Cloudflare has it for free, Let's Encrypt does it for free, so there's not a real good reason to not have SSL on your websites, okay? And Let's Encrypt, yes. And Let's Encrypt is actually pretty easy to set up, really, and if not, then you just use Cloudflare or GitHub Pages or whatever you're deploying to. And then if you do that and the user comes back to your app regularly, then the pop-up will come and allow them to install with one tap. So we are about to be done. I was in this wonderful city yesterday, and I took this picture, and I think it's a wonderful picture because, like, web developers unite and make the user experience better. Völker der Welt. Anyway, that was it. If you have any questions, I'm up and I'm around the entire day, so ping me on Twitter or talk to me if you're not as introverted as I am every now and then. Check out the websites, follow me on Twitter. Thank you very much for listening, and have a great day for the conference. Spasiba большое. So, questions? I think so. I think we should have 5 more minutes, or 2 more minutes, or 3 more minutes. You let me start later than was planned. Yolki-talki.
Okay, just raise your hand and go. Somebody there was over there, yeah.
Hello. Hello. What about browser supporting?
Browser support, a wonderful question. Service workers are supported in Chrome, Firefox, Opera. Safari has signaled interest, and Edge is working on it, so they are coming there. Chrome is the only one that supports message, like push notifications only work in Chrome, unfortunately. Yeah, that's pretty much that. But the cool thing is you can feature detect this. So you can say if navigator.serviceWorker, then do stuff, and if not, it's just a web application. So at least you have something, right? Also, Firefox has deprecated app cache, so that's like service worker is the only option left for making things available offline. You can theoretically work around this by using caching, but risky game to play. Any other questions? I think there was a microphone there. Yes.
Hello, hello.
Hi.
Yeah, thank you for the talk. And what about this prompt that asks user if he or she wants to install the app?
Mm-hmm.
Do you somehow code it manually, or is it something automatic?
That's automatic from the browser. The browser offers two ways of doing it. So we had that for years, actually. If you go on your phone on the menu button and then you say add to home screen, it's the same thing. But the browser, as I said, has heuristics. So it statistically determines, oh, this user wants this web application a lot of times. So how about I ask it? So it's an operating system dialogue asking the user if they want to install. So you don't have to do anything.
And no control over it.
That's not a problem, in my opinion, because you shouldn't have control over operating system features. It's a better user experience because it looks like what you would expect it to look like. But what you can do is, and what you should probably do is, that's actually an interesting thing, because when I go on a website, I expect it to not work when I'm offline. What you can do is, when you have a service worker, it doesn't matter if it's an installed application or not. So if you have a service worker installed and you know that you have it installed, then you can tell the user, by the way, this website is now offline capable. So that the user knows, aha, it's offline capable. But I really, really hope that that goes out of fashion at some point. But yeah, right now you should tell your user, hey, offline. And then they might go, yeah, I'm going to install that. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Hello. The main question is with caching. Yeah. My name is Yuri. I'm from.
Привет.
Привет. I want to hear about caching in Firefox because I know that in Chrome we have no problems with application cache, but in Firefox or in other browsers can be problems. We can get the old versions of files, and how to solve this?
Are you talking about app cache?
Yeah.
You solve that by not using it, unfortunately. No, I'm serious. App cache is really, it's a badly designed thing. It was a good intention gone bad. So I would rather not do it unless you have something that, so what you can theoretically do is you can, no, you can't do much.
So in Firefox we have two caches, yes? It's the first one is default cache and the second one is application cache.
You actually have three caches.
How to?
You have three caches, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Actually, in Firefox, you don't have app cache anymore. App cache is this file that you had to add to your application, and that was terrible. And you have the regular browser cache that just happens when you download something and there's a cache header, you cache it. But Service Worker gives you access to something that is called .cache. So you can basically write your JavaScript that has its own cache. It's a separate cache, and it works in Firefox and it works in Chrome, and you should not get old data. That was the app cache problem.
Yeah, and the additional one question about Internet Explorer 11 or Edge.
Oh, that time of the day. I don't think we have time for it anymore.
Okay, thank you.
Internet Explorer. Yeah. I don't even know how to answer that.
Okay.